Churches of Christ began as a movement for Christian unity, because those early believers had as their mantra that if we're united, then we can communicate the gospel more clearly. So at the heart of everything about being a partner is this understanding that unity is central to who God is and to the mission of Jesus that he's called us to. And that's why I want to encourage you to think about your own involvement with FCC and the value that that brings. For me personally, as a minister for over 40 years, I have found being part of FCC to be a great joy and a great blessing most of the time. I mean, we're all human, so it doesn't always work well, but most of the time. And the value of camaraderie, working together with friends who were in similar situations, or someone who had expertise that we could then encourage and invite in to our church, made a big difference. Let me give you an example of that. In my early years of ministry, I was involved with quite a lot of people who were spiritual seekers, but they weren't Christians, and they were looking quite often into dark places. And that would create then different kinds of events in their life. So sometimes there would be movements in a room, or there might be a full-blown person who was violently shaking, or whatever might be happening. There was a number of these things. And it was really because people were searching. They didn't realize that looking in dark places was actually going to affect them. And so we had quite a lot of power encounters in our early ministry. In one of those encounters, I was actually physically injured by one of the powers that was present. It felt like something bit me on the back of my leg. At first I thought I was just too close to the fire in the lounge, but then I became quite ill and depressed and very despondent. And for many, many weeks, I just couldn't hardly function at all. So I rang up one of my friends in FCC, the Reverend Phil Seaton, who was working at Bourneville at the time, at the church now known as Roheath Church. And he came and he not only ministered to me, but he then got involved with some of the ministry in our church in Redditch and was able to make good progress. And through his ministry, not only did the church continue to flourish, but also I received personal ministry that enabled me to find healing and restoration as well. Now, that's not the only way that FCC could be of help, but it's a very practical way that in my hour of need, I could call on one of my brothers in our movement, and then they could respond accordingly. And that's been my regular experience for many, many years.